Hi, I'm Jodine Sher of Lifeology, your personal transformation coach. It's 2023, and last year for me was a very brave year. But sometimes I have these moments where fear kicks in, and in social media, I am not shy to put out there when they do kick in, because one of the things that I believe is a gift that I have is to be able to help people to know that we're always going to be afraid, um, and to guide and give tips on the best way to get ourselves out of that. So I put a post out the other day with one of my favorite songs to listen to when I have one of those wobbles, and one of my favorite teas to drink, and just sitting outside taking in the fresh air. If you don't follow me, I'm Jodine Sher everywhere. I put my posts out on TikTok, on Facebook. You're free to connect with me on Facebook. If you want something a little bit more professional at times, I'm also on LinkedIn, and I share my story. And a dear friend of mine got hold of me and said to me, "You're so brave." And I was like, "I know I'm brave." That is something that I absolutely know. I never question my bravery. I know how very brave I am. But it doesn't mean that because we are brave, we never have moments of fear. We can have moments of fear and never have moments of bravery. And that's what I wanted to dig into a little bit, is that we confuse bravery and fearlessness, and that can be detrimental. It's really important in this whole movement, especially in the self-help industry and everything that goes on around us, where we are pushed to be positive and pushed to be strong, that we don't overlook the importance of acknowledging that we are never going to be people who do not step into a space of fear every once in a while. In my personal opinion, I even think that the most conscious and aware of people dip into fear all the time, and I wanted to share why. So, in order to do that, we need to just take a moment to truly understand the mind and the voices of the mind. So, we all sit with them. You may not recognize exactly what they are, but when you're trying to focus on something, it's almost like there's this chattering that's going on in your head. And if you imagine a stage, then on that stage, which is your mind, there's a whole lot of different characters. Some of us as a collective, well, all of us as a collective, have certain characters that are the same. And then we have our unique characters that create the personality and the traits that we have. And that's a whole different story that I'm definitely going to share with you along the way. And it all stems from our exact time of birth. It is our birthright to have our nature and the characters that we have. But there are two distinct characters in our minds that make up the voice, what we hear, of the ego. And those two characters are the victim and the child. We are not born with the victim and the child. They create themselves, they create the voice by recording every memory over time. And what happens with the victim is every time we take a trait and we test that trait out in the world from when we're very young, if we feel victimized, belittled, ashamed, made to feel small in any way, the victim takes that recording and it banks it over and over again. So when we try and use a trait, again, the victim is going to remind us, no, 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 if we use that trait, once again, we will be belittled, victimized, made to feel small. Then we try other traits, and in that, the child starts to make recordings. If there is fear of abandonment, loneliness, loss, any of those things where you can imagine feeling like a child, where you need the support and the security in the world and you don't get it, right? Those two recordings create the voice of the ego. And what's so important to understand is that even though we have those two voices, we have another really, really powerful voice that is always looking out for and protecting the child and the victim. That character within our head, that voice within our head, is known as the prostitute, the archetypical energy of the prostitute. Now, don't, um, well, we all do it. When we hear the word prostitute, we're like, that's such a terrible word. It is a terrible word. And it does link back to the very energy of prostitution. And what it's saying is that at some point, all of us get into a space of fear where we would sell our soul to get out of that fear. So the prostitute is the very energy that triggers fear within us. And the only way that we can resolve our fear is to then step into faith. We have to be able to find whatever faith means to us, and it's different and it's unique to each one of us. But the prostitute is an energy no matter what is happening within you, within your life. Bravery is a choice. You need to know that as you do the work to heal the victim and the child, you will become braver and braver and braver to do things. But the voice of fear, that is not a choice. It always comes up. So my messaging is, don't push it down. Allow yourself to feel the fear so that you can give yourself the opportunity to understand where it's coming from. And that fear is going to come from the recording of the programming of something that happened along the way that triggered the victim and triggered the child. But please don't get caught in the trap that when you sit in a space of fear, you think that you are not doing the work, or you're not healing, or you're not strong enough, or you're not getting it right. Along this journey, me being a nomad, going out into the world and being brave and not owning anything and not knowing where I'm going to be staying in the next couple of weeks or the next couple of months, it definitely takes bravery. And I'm so glad that I did the work to kick the bravery in. But don't think that I don't sit on buses, trains, sitting on my sister's couch, sitting in a friend's living room, sitting in my next house sit, crying because the next fear has kicked in. It may be irrational, and our fears are irrational, but they are real, and we got to do something about them. So my parting advice from someone who just chose not to know what tomorrow brings is, please don't confuse bravery with fearlessness. Um, if you're not doing something because you're afraid, then you may never give yourself the opportunity to see how truly brave you are. Give yourself the gift of facing those fears and figuring out where they stem from, because they're not real and we can overcome them. And at any point in time, in our process of transformation coaching that we do in Lifeology, we have the tools and we guide you to manage your fears and to activate the bravery that you know is tucked away somewhere, and that we absolutely know is tucked away somewhere. And we're wanting to help you find that along the way. So that's my message. I'm wishing you for 2023, and I'm sure that you're going to find this along the way. So whatever timing this is that you find this message, I'm wishing you the gift of honoring yourself to face the fears and to understand that you have the capacity to be truly brave if you give yourself the gift. Take care.